Okay, let's talk big picture for a minute. So, right this minute, it's the last day of this week for you because of conferences. So, tonight at conferences, one of the things we're going to talk about is the first 20 that you're going to take in a few minutes. Just because it's algebra, you're in pre-calc. I understand it's hard to remember algebra, but those skills are so critical that if you're still weak on them, you've got to fix it. It's like you got holes in your boat and you're about to go out on Lake Superior. And if you sink in Lake Superior, it's really cold. Okay, so you want to sink in pre-calc later. This class gets a little harder and a little harder, and it's the algebra that gets kids in the end. All right, so we're going to practice that right now so that you can do really well on that first 20. I don't want you to fail. I want you to do awesome so I can brag about you at conferences. All right, so then we're going to talk about domain a little bit more, and then that's your only job is to take that top 20, and then you got a worksheet for domain, and that's getting you ready for that test. When's the test? Not on Monday. I don't believe on Monday tests after especially 3-day weekends, so it's going to be Tuesday. All right, so here we go. Our first topic, can you simplify this? 3 plus and minus 4 square roots of 5, nope, not 4, sorry, 6 square roots of 5, all over 12. Now, some kids mistakenly think they can just reduce that. You cannot. But one of my other favorite sayings applies. What is it?
You can factor it.
If you can factor it, you should. Because this can be factored. Trent, you on this?
Yeah.
All right. So, Nunez, what do they both have in them?
3.
Yes, they both have a 3 buried in them. So I take the 3 out. And then the 12 also has a 3 in it. I'm just going to do that right away. Because I'm setting up, I know I'm going to cancel that 3 eventually. But you can't just cancel it. You got to know what to goes inside the parentheses. Sophia, when I take that 3 out, it's like I'm dividing by 3. So what do I have left that goes here? 1. Plus or minus. 2. Square root 5. Very good. Then that cancels and you're done. And this is the answer. And I know it looks messy, but it's 2 answers. Once where you do it with a plus, and then once where you do it with a minus. And if you had a calculator, you could get a decimal for this, and you could actually get 2 answers. And those would be the x-intercepts of the parabola. That's what this really was, is kind of like x equals negative b, goes there, plus or minus square root, that's this part, but it's been simplified. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and that's that part. That's what that was a quadratic formula that got simplified. And you were simplifying it all the way, and you got down to that. All right, that's another one of the topics on the first 20 is if you can factor it, you should, but what do you do if you can't factor it? That one doesn't factor. You might think it does because, 5 times 2 makes 10, but then the 5 and the 2 aren't going to be able to make the 6, so I'm going to save you a bunch of time. You could try to factor it all you want, but it wouldn't factor. So then what? X equals, everybody write out the formula because you'll need it. Brady, how's it start?
Negative b plus or minus square root.
Okay, stop. Negative b plus or minus the square root. Perfect so far. Dominique, keep it going from there. Negative b plus or minus square root of.
B squared
There it is.
minus 4ac.
Nice, and then stop. And then at the end, Rissy. All over 2a. Now everybody go back and stick in the a and the b and the c. This equation has an a, it has a b and a c. Sometimes kids think the a involves an x. It does not. Your a and your b and your c are just numbers. They can be negative, but they're just numbers. So what is the a term, Alex?
1.
1 is correct. There's a 1 right there, so a is 1, so it goes here. George, what's the b?
Negative 6.
Correct. So then this becomes negative of negative 6. really there's a parenthesis around the variable. And a lot of people get confused about, but there's already a negative there. Don't I just put a 6? Nope. You put a parenthesis where the variable was and you drop in negative 6. And this, same thing. And then for A, I need A again. There's a 1 right there. And then C. The only time you use C, negative 10, goes right here. And then this is the most common place to mess up because there's 2 negatives, which means you're really adding in there. So, negative 6 becomes 6, of course. Plus or minus the square root. Negative 6 squared, 36. 36 plus 40. Get how I got that? 4 times 10 is 40, but there's 2 negatives in there, so it's positive. All over 2. And then 36 plus 40 is 76. Now this one, we're just going to stop here because maybe this could be simplified, but usually the numbers aren't quite that big, so we'll stop and say that's good enough. All right, that's 2 of the big first 20s. Are there any off that sheet? You have the sheet in front of you if you hopefully brought it back today like I gave it to you yesterday. Are there any other questions on there you'd like one last little reminder about? Yes?
It would be number 6.
Number 6, read it.
2y equals 4x plus 6, and then wants us to find the slope.
Wants to find the slope. Well, a lot of people are like, isn't this the slope? And isn't that the y-intercept? Well, kind of. But what do you got to do first? Divide everything by what? 2. Because then it's y equals. You have to divide everything by 2. Because you can't find the slope until you got y alone. All right? So then your answer would be 4 divided by 2 is 2x plus 3. And then, why don't you tell me, Garrett, what's the slope?
The slope is 2.
Yep, and what's the y-intercept?
3.
3. Good. All right. Important algebra topics. We're going to see how you do in a minute. But before we do that, because some kids will finish, just so you know, there's an even tougher one than this. This one's called the first 20. There's one level up, which is called top 20. The record time for that is 4.5 minutes. That kid could probably do this one in 3 minutes. Literally. It's 20 questions he can do in 3 minutes. And there was a bunch of kids who were competing for that were close to him. Okay, so moral of the story, you could do this in 3.5 minutes, the whole 20 question quiz, if you really knew it all super well. Okay? And that's how well I want you to know it. Not that you have to break the time record. I'm just saying it should be like easy. Okay. So some kids are going to finish in like 5 minutes on that quiz. And others are going to take the full 20 minutes. If you have an IEP or a 504, I can give you extended time to finish it up. But last thought, I'm going to be giving you a worksheet on domain after this. And one of the toughest questions for kids is when there isn't any restrictions. So if you see a question like this, you might be thinking, well, he said if you can factor it, you should, and then you can't even factor it. So then what am I even supposed to do? What are the restrictions for this? There aren't any, because there's no square root and there's no fraction. So this, you can put in any number you want. There's no restrictions on that. For the x, you can put in any number and it won't crash the function. So the only kind that has restrictions are the kind that have this, because you can't just put in anything you want. You have to pick certain numbers, right? So that has restrictions, and you're supposed to take what's underneath and set it what again? Greater or equal to 0. All right. And the other kind that have restrictions have fractions, because can you put in anything you want? Well, almost. There's only one thing you can't put in. X cannot be what? What can X not be? Arrow, look up, take a look at this. What can X not be? Yes?
0.
You don't want this whole thing to be 0, you're right. So we don't want X to be negative 3. So what you do is you set this thing, X plus 3 cannot equal 0. And then when you subtract 3 from both sides, you get that. Now remember, that's actually an answer of negative 3, but it can't be here Or wait a minute, no, it can be all of those things and it can be all of these things. The only thing it can't be is negative 3. All right, and then the hardest of them all is are there some things that x can't be? Yeah, there are restrictions. Everybody, take this part, set it greater or equal to 0, and if you can factor it, you should. And then take this part and set it not equal to 0. Just do it one thing at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. Once you get both of those things done, put it all on a number line. And that's the hardest kind. We'll pause for a moment on the video while you try that. You're correct. So first you got to set it something. Set it equal or something like that. What do I do again? Set it greater or equal to 0. Write that down. Now we're going to factor it. Have you already got that written down? Or do you need a pencil?
I was taking the test.
I understand, but you're done now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so go grab a pencil or something and let's try this, because this is the big thing for today. You want to do well on your next test, right? So we're going to factor that. Addie, do you have it factored yet?
Yeah.
Excellent. Can you tell me what it is?
X plus
x plus 1,
1,
x minus 4, did you say?
no,
Oh, the other way around. So the plus and the minus should switch, otherwise I'd end up with, like, the opposite of what I wanted. Did I get it right now? Okay, cool. And then x equals 1. And wait a minute, how do I know I'm right? Some kids still don't understand how you know it's right. Because that makes 4x, and that makes minus x. And put that together and you get 3x. Yay. Okay, so now it's factored. And now the two key spots are x equals 1 and x equals negative 4. So I'm going to put them on my number line. There's negative 4. There's 1. Should I fill in those circles? Yes, because of the or equal. Because it says or equal to right there and there. All right, and now I should really try to figure out where to shade, but we'll do that later. Next thing, this part right here says x plus 7 should not equal 0, so x should not equal negative 7. So here's where negative 7 is, way down on the end. And negative 7. Circle it. Can it be negative 7? No, that's the whole point, is that it can't be negative 7. All right. Now, we need to test numbers that are on this number line and find out where it works and where it doesn't. Okay? So, first thought, the only thing that's going to fail in the bottom is negative 7. So we just promised never to shade that in. We're just going to leave that empty. Now let's test some other numbers. Like, does 2, something bigger than 1, work? Meaning, does it crash the function or does it allow the function to exist? So if I'm going to check 2, is the bottom still fine? Yeah, it's 9. That's no big deal. If I put in a 2 on the top, this is the factored form, might be a little easier. Is 2 minus 1, which is 1, times 6. 1 times 6 is 6. Is 6 greater or equal to 0? Yes, it is. You got a positive number in here when you stuck in a 2. So it worked. Yay. Now, it usually doesn't work in the place next door. I'm just going to show you. I put in 0. I'm going to put it here and here. And I'm going to get negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Is negative 4 bigger than 0? Nope, it's not. So it doesn't work, just like I kind of expected. Then I'm going to check this zone, like negative 6. I stick in a negative 6 here. Negative 6, negative 6. Do you get how they're both going to be negative? Negative 7 and negative 2. What's a negative times a negative? Positive, and is that bigger than 0? Yeah, so it worked. So I shade in here. And then I should check this stuff like -8 that's at the very end here. Now it's even bigger negative number, so it's going to be negative here. -8. It's a -8 here. It's going to be a negative times a negative again, which is again going to be positive, which is bigger than 0. So it works there too. A lot of places that it worked. All right, so then I'd say that's my answer if I could give number lines. Otherwise, -infinity to -7, union -7 to -4. Bracket on the -4 though, because it can touch there. Union bracket 1, 2 keeps going forever, right? There we go. That is as hard as they could possibly get. So what were the keys? Whenever you get dealt a problem like this, you set this greater or equal to 0. You set that not equal to 0. And that not equal to 0. And you put it all together on a number line. And you test intervals. All right? So, now, we're going to start with the first 20. And if anybody needs to have extended time on it, then I'm just going to take the timer off of it so that when we take it, that you could go longer than the 20 minutes without it like screwing you over. But you have to finish it within this class hour period. If you walk out without it done, it doesn't count. Okay, so we're going to finish that first 20 today in class. And some of you will get it done in like 5 minutes, in which case you can work on the worksheet. Now, I do want to look at the worksheet for just a minute right now because I'm going to cross off a bunch. I really want to make your homework reasonably sized, so please pull up that worksheet right now. Pull the worksheet up. There's only one worksheet in there for today, not the Schoology quiz, the worksheet. Sure. I need to 3/4 and then times by 50. So 3/4 times 9 difference. Yep. So again, don't start that quiz yet. Right now, we're just looking at the worksheet. All right, here are some that I feel like we can skip. I feel like we can skip number 4. I cross that one off. And number 8. And number 10. And 12. 4, 8, 10, and 12 can be skipped. Let me look at the last ones. And 16. 4, 8, 10, 12, 16. All crossed off. Now, would you agree? Cut your assignment down a lot. And you've got a long weekend to do it. Is there any reason you couldn't, like, do that? Other than just, like, don't want to. You can do that. All right. So then, your homework for tonight is that. And the Schoology quiz, I want you to all start the first 20 right now. And that's all I have for you for the video for today.